Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gents, what's chillin'? It's Davis or Howland or Editor Dave, and tonight I have got a special video because we will be ranking my favorite fighting games of all time. Now, a little lore dump here. I haven't always been interested in fighting games. I was big into Smash as a kid. I also loved the Injustice series, but that was pretty much it. And as the years have gone on, I realize now how much I was missing out on. I mean, COD was everything for me growing up, and for the last few years, Elden Ring and all these RPGs have had me in little chokeholds, but even those games do not scratch that itch for me the same way that a Mortal Kombat or a Guilty Gear does. And I never knew how much I loved and needed these games in my life until now. So, with my passion at an all-time high, honestly, I feel like now's the perfect time to talk about some fighting games. I have a list of about 17 fighting games that I've dabbled in. Some I've played for hundreds of hours, others I've played maybe 30 minutes, but we've got a broad spectrum here. We're going to tackle it all, and we're going bottoms up. Let's go ahead and dive deep in. Alright, in last place, Footsies. Footsies is the ultimate fundamentals fighting game. I have about an hour's worth of playtime, half of which was spent on arcade mode, which was awesome. The Whiff Punish guy was absolutely insane. I enjoyed the different challenges, and it really felt like I was back in an arcade. As far as everything else, I can't say much. It's practically impossible to play this game online or matchmake. It's not feature-rich. There's barely any substance or deep mechanics to master. No roster to try out or ranked mode to grind, but Footsies is a great little bare bones fighting game that you can enjoy with anyone. Look, I'm not going to waste any time here. Street Fighter 6 is not for me. I've never been drawn to it. I don't know the history or all the ins and outs, but in general, the gameplay is slower than I like. It's more grounded. There's less movement options. The combos and inputs are harder than NRS games, and the art style, characters, story, all of that never interested me. I will say that I would have loved to try Third Strike because of that universal parry mechanic, and if I did grow up with this series, I would have a different opinion, but it is what it is. My first and only Street Fighter was SF6, which I got into right when it released. I wanted to try some other fighting games after getting into MK11, and there was a lot of day one hype for all the new features and the introduction of modern controls. But even with those things, it didn't feel right, and I didn't fuck with a single character except for maybe Jamie. I'll still watch top 8 at EVO and some content here and there, but I doubt I'll ever try learning the game or grinding ranked. Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi. Now, I honestly don't have much to say here. I never owned Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi personally, but I had friends of... And at first, I don't even know if this is the right game. I just remember going over to my boy Rahul's house, and we would just be grinding this game with friends of friends, and we would go crazy in middle school. But I don't even know which Dragon Ball it was. I think it was this one, so we're going to go with it. Look, it was a blast as a kid. I just don't remember it enough, and it can't go any higher. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Now, this was a recent release in the last few months. I've played about 2 hours worth, and look, it's fantastic. Dragon Ball Z was a huge influence in my life growing up, so revisiting this series is always super nostalgic and awesome, and the 2 hours that I have are already perfect. I went into the shop, I glazed over all the costumes and characters, I spent half an hour listening to the girls gossip about every character and their backstory, I played the first few chapters of the story mode, and then I also went online with my boy Birder, and we had a blast messing around. As a fighting game, it's not the most competitive. There's a ton of cheese shit and crazy broke strategies, but it's all hilarious, and I can't believe how cracked the movement and gameplay actually is. Like when you're flying around doing vanishes and throwing hands on everybody, teleporting behind, dropping Kamehameha nukes, it's amazing. But I don't really enjoy the core gameplay, the mechanics, and the arena fighter style, so it goes here. I'm going to loop all the Smash Bros games around here with slightly different ordering, and starting with Ultimate, it's my least favorite because it's my least played. I know the roster the best it's ever been, The same thing with the features and the overall quality, but I'm not the same kid I was before. I don't enjoy platform fighters anymore. Melee is in the middle for me. It's a classic. There's still a hardcore player base to this day, and mashing buttons with cool characters was dope at the time. But Brawl has got to be my personal favorite. This was the peak age, late elementary, early middle school days. All my friends were into it. We played the shit out of this game, ruining friendships because someone wanted to play Meta Knight or a sword user, fighting over the smash ball, beating the bitch out of each other with the fan, absolutely exploding someone with the charged home robot. It was a super casual and fun time in my life. But nowadays, I would never play this game or any of the Smashes, honestly. I just prefer the 2D fighters.
He's really taking this seriously. This is EVO Grand Finals for real. Oh. Oh my God.
Tekken 8 is interesting. I don't have too much experience with the game or the franchise. I never did. But early last year, I was watching RDC World run some beef sets versus Afro Senju and some other content, and ended up trying it out. I did the first bit of the story mode, which was honestly awesome. I liked the quick time events. I enjoyed the characters and the overall world a lot more than I thought I would. And I did a little bit of training mode, which has some of the best features in a fighting game. And lastly, I played some online sets. Look, it's solid. It's solid. I would probably prefer Tekken over Street Fighter right now, but I would rather play any NRS or Arc Systems Works game any day of the week. To me, Tekken is too deep. It's too difficult to pick up and get into. I love learning fighting games. It's one of the best aspects of them, but I do not have it in me to memorize 100+ moves for every character and their properties, learn how to parry every fucking king throw, wake up in every situation, etc., etc. So, while I do appreciate the depth of this game, I find it overwhelming. But outside of that, shout out my main, Hwoarang. Shout out the stages too. They're actually really cool and vibey. Shout out the music. God damn! And overall, Tekken 8's impressive. Is it my style? Not really. The way it looks and plays hasn't hooked me yet, but I can see why people love it. DBFZ was a really hard ranking because on one hand, I barely have any experience and knowledge about the game, but on the other hand, the game is sick and it would have been one of my favorites if I invested the time. So I played for 1 weekend back in college when DBFZ first launched, and I thought it was cool, but the 100-hit combos and the team-up mechanics were just too much. I will say, watching Leffen, my goat, get his pants absolutely dropped by Goichi in tournament is one of my favorite FGC videos to this day. And DBFZ does look incredible. I love the art style, the bright colors, and all the little details that they added. I also know I would have loved the gameplay if I actually played it and learned and mastered the game. So those aspects are enough to put DBFZ above the Smashes and the Tekkens and everything else below, regardless of playtime, just because I know fundamentally it's more my style, but the lack of experience and everything means it can't go higher.
No, I'm getting happy boo-booed! I'm getting happy boo-booed! Arthur, mommy! Okay, instantly fucked up. Yeah, send in the fucking space though, bitch! What's up? What's up? What's up?
Trigger shot. Blade right into my hand. Metal knuckle sandwich.
MVCI and DBFZ are interchangeable, and they both land around here for the same reasons. Absolute eye candy as a spectator, and I would have gone crazy with the gameplay. I honestly never thought I'd play any of the Marvel vs. Capcoms, especially not Infinite, since I usually only heard about MVC 2 and 3. But Maximilian, dude, shout out my guy. He launched this massive Infinite Beyond mod recently, and with the game being on PC and all the fans returning to try out the mod, it made me want to do the same. And so a couple of months ago, I played it for a few hours, which I gotta say, out of all the fighting games I've played, MVCI is the most loose, batshit, insane game. It's the type of game that I know I will never be good at, but it's also the game that I want to master the most. The speed of this game with the assists, with wave dashing, the animations, It's literally insane. Even watching it makes my head explode. The roster is stacked. I'm more of a DC guy, but they fucking cooked here. Winter Soldier is my Marvel Deathstroke, and Dante is my Guilty Gear Strive Happy Chaos. Dante might be the coolest character I've ever had the pleasure of studying besides Chaos, and I still can't do shit with him in game. My online experience so far has been hyping myself up at round start, whiffing a button, and then getting comboed for 60 seconds until I die. But I love it. I love how crazy everything is. The tag system is so sick. The mix-ups you can create are absolutely disgusting. And I don't know how you block some of these setups in pressure situations. Then you have the Infinity Stones, and those compound the craziness, like using the Soul Stone for comebacks or the Space Stone to force people into a literal box. I mean, it's truly insane. That's the only word I have for this game. I'll probably never win an online match or achieve greatness, but it is a pure joyride. Also, shout out to Legendary Training Stage. Injustice: Gods Among Us. Now, I had hundreds of hours on the mobile app version of Injustice, and I was the biggest fan in late middle school, early high school, but as far as a legitimate fighting game on console, Injustice 1 is tough. Before I actually owned it, I would go over to my boy Obby's apartment and we'd play local games. None of us knew how to play. We just press buttons and spam special moves, but it was still awesome. I'll always remember the very first night I got the game for myself, where I went through the entire story mode while eating some ramen noodles. The game had a legendary roster: Aquaman, Deathstroke, Lobo, Joker, Sinestro, just so many fantastic fighters. Unfortunately, I didn't get to fully experience them because by the time I got the console version, the player base was dead. I think I had maybe 2 online matches against someone with 6,000 games and he dog walked me. But this game was amazing. I have nostalgia out the ass for it. Yes, there was some dumb broke shit like the interactables and several characters were unbalanced, but that's part of the charm. And stage interactables, stage transitions, wall bounces, supers, character powers, all of these mechanics were extremely entertaining, and Injustice was awesome. Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. Now, GBVR had the potential to be one of my favorite fighting games. This was the first real anime fighting game that I tried, and it had the sauce. Artistically, it's up there. Stage and character designs, animations, music, all of that is top tier. The roster is also decent. It doesn't have the lore and hype of Injustice, and there's definitely a waifu theme going on, but Lancelot's super dope. Love that guy and his cracked movement. Lucilius is cool. Siegfried's badass, and every character is pretty unique for the most part. There's also a lot to enjoy with the core gameplay. The game has a huge strike throw strategy around 6XL or dash light attacks that give you plus frames. But the problem I have with Granblue is that I picked it up when I was experimenting with a few other games, and so my attention was split and I ended up getting into Strive instead. I still love watching high level matches and I want to play this game casually, but it's very hard to balance multiple fighting games, and I'm all in with some others right now. Alright, before I give the scripted answer, I just have to say that the main reason Injustice 2 is not higher is because of the zoning meta of the game. Stages were much larger and spread out, projectiles were broken, and playing lame was everyone's answer. So that was the biggest issue I had. But getting into it, Injustice 2 was my favorite fighting game for a while. I had hundreds of hours on this bad boy. The roster was just as good, if not better, than Injustice 1's. Deathstroke didn't return, which was a brain-dead decision, but they introduced several new characters that were phenomenal. Red Hood and Captain Cold were both fantastic, so was Black Manta. I could spam his forward 2-1-3 string all day. And then there's Deadshot, my ultimate main. I wish I could find footage of when I was at my prime, zoning everyone to death. You would want to strangle me. Nothing beat the college days of queuing casuals at 3 a.m., finally getting a match against some innocent player, perfect gaming them 10 games in a row, and then getting an Xbox message with 32 slurs calling me the biggest piece of shit. I loved it. I deserved it too. But shout out this game, man. Great story mode and single player features too. The gear system and the multiverse modes are probably my favorite single player content in any of these games, honestly. I'll always remember the college nights where my custom AI was doing multiverse events and I would just sit there AFK watching anime. If zoning wasn't as potent and I expanded my personal gameplay more, I could definitely have it higher, but it sits here. In the interest of time, I don't want to take too long on this entry, but also without Mortal Kombat 11, I wouldn't have played half of the fighting games on this list and this video wouldn't be happening. So I have to give MK11 its credit for making me fall back in love with fighting games, and it's also my most played fighting game with close to 500 hours still. From an experience standpoint and what this game did for me, it could easily be number one. I loved how each character was easy to pick up and learn for the most part. The roster wasn't the best, but I had my mains. Shout out Johnny, Rain, Shang, and Kung Lao. Just like the roster, I enjoyed the simplicity of this game as well and how easy it was to get into. But as I played more, I hated the simplicity. Like in the beginning, I was laughing my ass off whenever I downed two like a bot, or spammed bros, or steal a game with a raw fatal blow. But as I played more, I couldn't stand scrubs doing that to me. And there were so many annoying mechanics that sucked. Like the combo breaker system felt terrible to use and it didn't work half the time. The wake up system was trash and the meter system was straight dog shit. I don't even need to explain why. So several core mechanics missed the mark and they also limited what you could do with your character. There were a few mechanics that I did enjoy. The short hop and flawless blocking were awesome. Even crushing blows were fun, but the fundamentals of the game were chalked in my opinion. All in all, MK11 is my most played fighting game, and it was my favorite when I was active. It was all about the mind games, making reads on flawless block gaps and wake ups and stuff like that. The game was simple, but the small little outplays were addicting. Also, the slower bare bones gameplay made it kind of great for footsies. I don't know how to really translate that, but it just did. And I loved the final EVO Grand Final set between Ninja Kill and Nicholas in that Fujin mirror match. The shimmies were insane. I could talk about my experience with MK11 forever, but the playtime speaks for itself. Fatalities, brutalities, and mercies are all fantastic features that I wish were in other fighting games. Watching this game is a blast. Playing Koth sessions with your boys completely wasted is a blast. And I'm sure I will eventually have more hours on another fighting game, but this was the real deal, and I'll always have love for it.
He trying to knock my fucking head off. He trying to knock my fucking head
Man, where do I start with MK1? This was the first fighting game that I played at launch, and the hype that I had going in, watching all the trailers, combat casts, announcements, and everything, it was second to none. I played almost every day from launch until that December, and it was the most I've ever been addicted to a fighting game. Compared to MK11, the combos are more fun and stylish, the gameplay is deeper, the mechanics are better. Up block is now one of my favorite mechanics. The down 2 conversions and the fatal blow mashing minigames are unique. I wish breaker was only 2 bars, but it's still decent. Wake up options are in a good spot. So all around, the gameplay is just better. and the community memes during the first month were absolute gold.
Ninja Killer, you're mine! You're done for! I got him in the corner, this is it!
I'm mixed on the roster. Johnny Cage is the best he's ever been. Love that guy. Rain is super cool, and Ermac is also insane, but Shang Tsung and Kung Lao are disappointing. I thought the DLC was going to be crazy with everyone they announced, but most of them aren't for me. I'm also mixed on cameos. Some aspects I enjoy, like having a bunch of playstyles and strategies, plus all the creative combos and interactions, but I'm not a big team fighter guy, and I'd rather have one character with lots of options. At the end of the day, like MK11, I could write essays on this game and my experience, but it's not number one for a few reasons. The first comes down to the feel and style of the game. The execution with cameos can be wonky, and the overall responsiveness of everything isn't as smooth as I'd like. I also don't like the art direction as much as a Strive or even MKX. The other issue with MK1 is that it is an emotional roller coaster. I could die to a basic bitch Souls boss 300 times over and not lose my cool. But whenever I get hard to blockable by Sindel Lauhat or my punish gets punished by strike grenades, I full tilt. It might have been the meta and my 80-hour grind to rank god that one season and that 1 month in November, but it felt like every slight inconvenience sent my mental state off a cliff. I legitimately have permanent knuckle damage because of the times that I punched the living shit out of my wooden desk, and let me tell you something. The desk wins every time. Point is, I was going through peaks and troughs with MK1. However, I do love this game. Making up block reads, micro-ducking throws and highs on reaction, hitting little jimmies with safe jump setups and backdash baits. It's a great time. So, that's why MK1 makes the podium. The combos and setups are creative. The gameplay is honestly infinite. It has the best balance and mechanics from all the NRS games, and it's really only gotten better over time.
Oh, it keeps going for this overhead shit! Oh, any other character. Yo, can you hear me? Any other character. Any other character. Fucking any of them.
Not playing Mortal Kombat X during its prime is one of my biggest regrets in gaming. I missed out and it guts me. That being said, MKX is my second favorite fighting game of all time and my favorite NRS game. Back around March of last year, I finally played for the first time, and after a few hours and a few online games, I was satisfied. I really only played MKX to be able to feature it in this video, but then a few months went by, I stumbled across another Destroyer MKX throwback tourney, and I got inspired to hop back on. And since August, I've been playing nearly every weekend. My experience has been unbelievable. I mean, truly unbelievable. And that usually happens with every fighting game I try just because I love the learning loop and I'm addicted to winning my ones. But there's something special about MKX. They really fucking cooked. I'll start off with the online experience, which has been fantastic. It's just like Injustice 2 on PC when it comes to the player base. You would think that the game is dead, but there's still a few hundred dedicated players out there keeping this thing going. Searching for matches is like Christmas Day. You never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes they give me the level 1 newborn who doesn't know how to block, and sometimes they give me Walk 'em Down and Molest 'em 8000 who walks me down and molests me. But moving past the matchmaking, I just love the gameplay. It's addicting. From a pure game feel standpoint, MKX is an all-timer. The pace of the game, the movement, the animations, the fluidness, the crispness, the responsiveness, it is simply the best feeling fighting game. The game style is also the best. Zoning, rush down, neutral, everything works, but offense is definitely the most insane. It's all about initiating and mixing the absolute shit piss out of someone. The mechanics are pretty great. I like the stamina bar, invul backdashes, neutral jump punch, stage interactables. being able to do throw restance mid-combo and stuff. But there's also mechanics that I don't enjoy or that are missing, like not having up block feels bad, not having a flawless block or way to avoid chip feels bad. So it's not actually perfect, but it still feels perfect. I also love the graphical infidelity that MKX has. It's this weird, janky, but simple and classically smooth art style that slaps so hard. It's so good. And the roster is incredible. Gunslinger Aaron Black is badass. Bo Raicho is hilarious and awesome. Some of the most fun I've had on a character. Johnny's still Johnny, smooth as ever. I have wet dreams about Spectral Ermac corner combos. Cyber sub setups are sick, and Tremor's the man. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of them, especially with variations. The stages are pretty great too. I play 90% of my games on the pit. It's so goated. But wrapping things up, I'm super happy with my experience, even if I missed out on the OG days. MKX was ahead of its time. There's a reason everyone still loves it to this day. And if I had that 2015 experience, had more time on the game, had friends who also played, etc., MKX could be my favorite fighting game of all time. My favorite fighting game of all time is Guilty Gear Strive. Stylistically, it's the best. I mean, every time I'm watching a stream or some sort of content around this game, it's eye candy. I can't get over how good this game looks. Gameplay-wise, it's also the best. There's so much depth with just the movement, which, if you know me, you know I love speedruns and games that have that kind of focus. There's also a bunch of wild system mechanics in the game. I won't touch on all of them, but Roman cancels are definitely the most interesting. There are 4 types of RCs, and the ways that you can use and abuse each at various points in a game are infinite. Just using Chaos as an example, whenever I pull his gun out to zone, sometimes an opponent will pull my pants down by activating their instant full screen super, which I'm unable to block normally. But if I activate purple RC during their super, I can use the slowdown to get into a block stance. Or again, as Chaos, when an ABBA player gets in and starts raw dogging my shit up close, normally it's chalked and there's nothing I can do. But if I activate yellow RC at the right moments, I can reverse the pressure. You can also be random and use blue and purple RCs at the most redonkulous times to mess with timings and frame data and throw opponents off. You can use red RCs for infinite combo routes and extensions. They can also be used to convert throws and virtually any poke you'll ever get. There's also the wall break mechanic that is one of my favorite systems in any fighting game. Kind of like an Injustice stage transition, but with even more importance and nuance. I love the tension and meter system too. Like in a normal fighting game, you use meter maybe a few times in a round, and then it takes a while to build it back, so you use it more cautiously. But in Strive, it's encouraged to use meter when you have it, because as long as you're playing aggressive, you're going to earn meter for using meter. And that makes the gameplay super explosive with lots of interactions. I also like the burst meter and the burst baiting mind games. Just all of the mechanics, offensive and defensive, feel amazing to use. They're so quick and responsive. I mean, the flawless defense. They're so quick and responsive, plus the cracked movement. I can't say enough good things about how Strive plays. Outside of gameplay, the tower mode is a cool concept, and I like certain aspects, i.e. the Celestial Challenge, but there are loopholes to easily climb, and I honestly just prefer having a true ranked mode instead. The player stat tracker is ass. Absolutely terrible. There's nothing to unlock, and you can only customize your character's color scheme, so there's not a whole lot of incentive to grind. But I will say, the soundtracks and stages in Strive slap harder than Will Smith at the Oscars. Chaos's theme slaps. The main themes slap. Most of the characters' OSTs slap. And then you have the battle stages. I mean, each stage is like a 3-for-1. And the Fallen Prayer stage is my favorite stage in any fighting game. It's that good. The last part of Strive I want to talk about is the roster. If you're talking about just playing as the character, Strive's roster has the best of any game, even over Injustice 2 and MKX, just because every character is crazy unique and mechanically dense. But the ultimate sell for me is Happy Chaos, the coolest character of all time. Johnny's a close second, and Kai and Axel are also sick, but I don't have much interest in the other characters. And if you consider how it feels to play against the roster, then I would say it's dog shit. There are some absolutely diabolical characters that feel miserable to fight. Potemkin might be the worst fucking character ever created, but when you handle business and you dominate a game, there's literally no better feeling than you get in Strive. In conclusion, I love fighting games. I'm sure this list will change over time with new releases and older games that I decide to try out, but thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, let me know. It's Ben Davis. I'll see you on the next one.